Hello, welcome to Story Time at the Milledgeville Public Library of Illinois. The story we have for you today is a story that comes from a small little country that is now part of the United Kingdom, the country of Wales. This is the story of the Silver Cow. Once, long ago, when the world was young, there was a farmer, and his name was Gwilym Hughes. Now, Gwilym Hughes was as black of heart as his small, beady eyes. He was very greedy, and he wanted lots of things, but he was a very, very poor man, and he didn't have a lot of things. What he did have was a wife named Bronwyn, who was very patient and very gentle, and a son named Hugh. And although Hugh asked his father many, many times to go to the village school with the other children, his father always told him, "I am a poor man, my son must work." And so he would send young Hugh up the mountain with the black Welsh cattle to take them to the meadow to graze. Now, next to the meadow, or in the meadow, near the meadow, was a lake. It was a very strange lake. It was not in the sort of place one would expect to find a lake, but there it was. And the cattle would drink water from it, and Hugh would sit near the lake, and he would take his harp with him when he could, for his father did not approve of music. He felt that Hugh should be up the mountain to look after the cattle, not to make them dance or to make them sing. The music was a waste. But Hugh liked to make the music, so if he could sneak his harp out of the house, he would take it with him up to the high meadow and he would play the harp. Well, one day, as he was playing his harp in the meadow, he felt as though someone was watching him. And he stopped playing his harp for a moment and he looked about, and suddenly he saw, standing there, a cow. It was a cow unlike any Hugh had ever seen, for you see, in Wales at that time, most of the cows were just black. No white spots, no brown spots, just black. This cow was as silver and shone just slightly, just like the moonlight or the starlight that reflected off the lake. It was the strangest cow that Hugh had ever seen. But it was a cow, so he looked after it as he would the others, made sure that it had food to eat and water to drink, and that it was well. And when he left that night to go home, he thought that the cow would stay in the meadow, but no. The cow followed behind Hugh, along with the black Welsh cattle. And when he reached the barn, and his father came out to help with the milking, the silver cow came straight to Hugh, and when he milked that cow, do you know he got 3 times as much milk out of the cow, and the milk was so much sweeter and so much richer than that came from the black cows. Well, his father was very astonished. Gwilym said, "Where on earth, son, boy, did you find this cow?" And he said, "Well, father, it must have come out of the lake. It must have come from the Tylwyth Teg, from the good folk, the fairy folk." And his father said, "Pah! The Tylwyth Teg. Next you'll tell me it sprang out of the grass. Do not lose sight of that cow, Boybach. That cow will make me a rich man. And when I am rich, will you send me to school?" "No, I will have enough money to do anything I want." Well, every day then, Hugh kept taking all of the cows up to the pasture, and after a little while, the silver cow mated with the black Welsh cows, and you know, every single calf that she had was just as silver as she herself was. And after several years had passed, Gwilym Hughes had quite the herd of cattle, and every single one of those silver cows gave 3 times as much milk as the black Welsh cows, and it was 3 times as rich and as sweet as the black Welsh cow milk was. And Gwilym Hughes was becoming quite a rich man. He was very well known now in the village and in the surrounding area for his milk and his cheese. But unfortunately, his heart was still as black as his beady little eyes. And so he took his money, and instead of using it to send Hugh to school or to buy a nicer dress for his wife, he put it all in a box and he locked up the box. And when he would go to the village to brag about his wonderful milk and his cheese, he never spent more money than he absolutely had to. And the only cloth he ever brought back for his wife Bronwyn to make a new dress from was the same poor, coarse, rough cloth that he had bought her before, even though he could have bought her much nicer cloth. And the only present he ever gave her was one day he came back and he said, "Here, this is for you." And he gave her a heavy iron thimble. She burst into tears. It was not the kind of gift one really wants to get. And her son Hugh, who by this time was quite as tall as his mother was, came over and he gave her a hug and a sad smile. Well, one day, Gwilym Hughes announced that he had noticed that the silver cow, while she would never seem to grow old, had certainly grown fatter and much slower, and she had stopped giving milk. And he had no use for a cow that would not give milk. And so he decided he was going to call the butcher. And now, in addition to his wonderful milk and cheese, he would be known for his wonderful beef. And Hugh was startled and dismayed. He said, "Father, you're not talking about butchering the silver cow, are you?" And he said, "Well, of course I am. I have no use for a cow that cannot give milk and cheese." And Hugh said, "But Father, you can't. You can't. She's not your cow. She came from the Tylwyth Teg. You cannot kill her." "Ha! Tylwyth Teg. Next you'll tell me I can't sell the milk and cheese I get from her. Of course I can butcher her, son. She belongs to me. She's in my herd. She's in my barns. I've been taking care of her all this time." Which wasn't really true. Hugh had been taking care of her all this time. So, what makes you think? Did the Tylwyth Teg tell you that the cow was theirs and she was only on loan to us? No, they didn't tell us that, Father, but I've seen the lake rippling when there was no wind as the Tylwyth Teg listened while I played my harp. Oh, as soon as he said it, Hugh knew he had said something wrong, for his father did not know that he had been taking his harp to the high meadow to play. His father said, "Harp? I told you we do not need music. You should be watching my cows. Give me the harp." And he took the harp from Hugh and he locked it up in the big chest where he kept all of his money. Well, sadly, Hugh went back up to the high meadow with the cows, and now he couldn't even play his music. And a few days later, he saw his father coming up the hill, along with the butcher and several of the farmers from the town, and he could see the silver gleam in the butcher's hand of his carving knife. Oh, no, 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 no. And he ran to the silver cow and he started pushing her toward the lake, and he said, "Go! You have to go! You have to go! My father's going to butcher you! Go!" But she just looked at it with her big, warm brown eyes. And Hugh ran to the lake and he yelled, "Tylwyth Teg! Tylwyth Teg, help! My father's going to butcher the silver cow!" But he didn't have his harp. And the music was what had brought the Tylwyth Teg to the surface of the lake to listen to him. And so they couldn't hear him. And Hugh was so upset. But there was nothing he could do. He kept trying to get the silver cow to go back to the lake, and she wouldn't go, and he kept calling out to the Tylwyth Teg, and they weren't hearing him. And so his father came up with the butcher, And they walked round the silver cow and they looked at it, and the butcher said yes, he could definitely use the meat from this cow. And he put his silver knife to the neck of the silver cow to kill it. And suddenly, from the direction of the lake, came a high, clear voice that, while it was beautiful and sweet, was also cold with rage. And it called out, "Silver cows! Silver cows! Come home! Come home now!" And instantly, all of the silver cows came running from all over the hillside and rushed headlong into the lake. And the lake water bubbled and boiled for a bit, and then suddenly they were all gone. Well, as soon as Hugh saw the silver cows rush for the lake, he knew his father was going to be furious. And he was a little bit afraid that his father would be furious at him. And so he ran back to the house. And when he got back to the house, he found that large chest that his father had been keeping all of his money in, and Hugh's harp. It was wide open, and it was completely empty, and Hugh's harp was sitting carefully on the floor beside it. And Hugh's mother, Bronwyn, was sitting there, and she was looking rather surprised and a bit dazed. And she said, "Not 10 minutes past, I heard the echo of a voice, and then the chest just flew open, and the bags of money, they just floated away, and Hugh, what has happened?" And he said, "Mother, the Tylwyth Teg have called the cows home, and they've called the money as well, it seems." And he said, "Mother, I'm leaving. Ma'am, I'm leaving him. I'm going out into the wide world. Ma'am, you must come with me." And as he said it, he was gathering up his clothes, and he took some Welsh cakes from the larder, and he picked up his harp. And his mother said, "No, no, Hugh, you see, he will be a poor man again, and he will need me now. And besides, I've grown old. Traveling the world and getting away from this place, that is for the young. Perhaps that is what the Tylwyth Teg were trying to tell you, to go from this place and to seek your fortune in the great wide world." And so Hugh said, "Well, all right, Mother, but I will come back for you someday." And he left the house. And as he left the house, he went up to the meadow, and he managed to avoid his father and the other farmers coming down, although he did hear the other farmers. One of them said, "Well, so much for Gwilym Hughes's grand beef. Well, so much for his wonderful milk and cheese. Messing with the Tylwyth Teg, isn't it? No wonder he's lost everything. It's what he deserves. He should have known better than to play with the Tylwyth Teg." Well, Hugh, he went up past the high meadow, and as he went past the lake, he was startled, for it was no longer a flat, calm lake, no. Now the lake was covered, just round all of the edges, with beautiful white water lilies, one for every cow that had rushed into the lake. And Hugh, he called out, "Bore da, good morning, and thank you, diolch yn fawr, Tylwyth Teg. I'm going out into the wide world to seek my fortune, and I shall take this tale with me." And he began to play upon the harp as he walked. And he walked away playing the harp, and everywhere that he went, he told the tale of the Tylwyth Teg and the silver cow and the lake that is now known as Llyn Barfog, the bearded lake, for all of those beautiful white water lilies that hem the edges of the lake. And do you know, Hugh became actually rather famous as a singer and a teller of tales in Wales in that time. And it was the tale of the Llyn Barfog and the silver cow that earned him his fame. And that is the tale of the silver cow from Wales. I hope you'll come back and join us again on Wednesday at 3 p.m. Central Daylight Time. We'll have another folk tale or fairy tale for you from around the world, right here, the Milledgeville Public Library of Illinois' Facebook page. See you later. Bye.